Do you have a head of cabbage on hand? Here are 3 delicious and interesting ways that you can use cabbage to create crowd-pleasing meals. So today we're going to be making 3 vegan cabbage-based recipes. So next time you're at the shops or at the markets and pick up one of these, you'll know what to make with it. It's not only delicious, but they're also very affordable. So we're going to get started off by making my cabbage pasta. Now it's so easy to make and it's so delicious, and don't be skeptical. Just because it only has 3 ingredients plus salt and pepper, which everybody has on hand, it is loaded with flavour. So we have a whole head of cabbage, some pasta and some oil. That's it. That's all you need. And the best part is you can also make this gluten-free, or you can use whatever pasta you have on hand, but today I'm using bow ties. To get started, wash your medium-sized cabbage head and remove the core. Chop it roughly. It doesn't matter too much how you chop it, as it will cook down. I don't like to shred it or make it super thin because it will clump together more when you toss it through the cooked pasta. Add it to a large pot that's on high heat. So this might seem like a lot of cabbage in the pot right now, but trust me, it's going to cook right down. So the reason that we're putting in salt at the beginning and not oil is so that all of the moisture is extracted out of the cabbage, and so it can caramelize later on once we add in the oil. Add a tablespoon of salt to the pot and place the lid on. Once you hear the cabbage, remove the lid and give it a good stir. It's only a little tricky at the beginning until the cabbage starts to soften and cook down. Just work at it to distribute the salt through the pot. Put the lid back on and let it cook for 10 minutes until the cabbage is soft and has released its water. At this stage, if the cabbage becomes too dry, just add a splash of water to prevent it from burning. Now we remove the lid and continue cooking for a further 10 minutes to evaporate all the moisture from the cabbage, making sure to still stir occasionally. Once the water has evaporated, add in a 1/3 cup of olive oil. Just make sure to continue stirring and that it doesn't stick to the bottom, and now cook for a further 10 to 15 minutes. At this point, bring a pot of salted water to a boil and add 500 grams of farfalle, which is bow tie pasta, to the pot. Give it a stir so that the pasta doesn't stick together, and just cook until al dente. Okay, so once all of the water and the oil have kind of soaked in and evaporated, it's ready to go. So let me just try a little bit. That is really good. Even just on its own, I would actually eat a full pot of this cabbage by itself. You might be skeptical, just like my husband was when we actually were first talking about making this, because it's just so simple and you think, where's the flavor going to come from? But please trust me and try it this way first before you start adding in lots of other things. I mean, of course you can if you want to, but this on its own tastes just amazing. Drain the pasta once it's cooked and mix it into the cabbage. This is where you adjust the seasoning to taste, and add some freshly cracked pepper and you're ready to dig in. This is such a quick and easy meal to make that the whole family will enjoy. This can easily serve up to 6 people, and as I mentioned earlier, is a super affordable meal for you to add to your weekly rotation. So next up, we're going to be making vegan cabbage rolls. Now this is one of my childhood favorites that in the Balkans is called sarma, but because we're not using meat in this recipe, we're going to be packing umami with so many different other ingredients. Now don't worry, it's still very affordable to make, and we are using a lot of staple ingredients from your pantry. It does take a little bit of extra time, but most of that time is actually very hands-off. Bring a large pot of salted water to a boil and then clean your medium-sized head of cabbage. I get mine from the market, so there's a few outer leaves that I need to remove. Cut the stem of the cabbage and then using a paring knife, cut on an angle around the base of the cabbage head and remove as much of the core as you can. This can take a few goes to get it right, but just keep at it, it will come out eventually. The core is the part that keeps all the cabbage leaves together. Now you'll be able to remove them much easier. I have a few different ways of removing the leaves listed over on the website, but I find that this is the most efficient way of doing it. Just wiggle the leaf as this will help to loosen it without ripping. If you do rip the leaf, it's okay, we can still use it. So we always look for where the last cabbage leaf is. So this is the one that's over, so that I go to the rib of that one to release it. Keep going until you have 8 leaves or the equivalent ready to boil. Set the rest of the cabbage aside for later. Place the leaves in the boiling water and cook for around 5 minutes. I place my tongs open in the pot to keep the leaves completely submerged in the water. If your pot's big enough, you don't need to do that. Using tongs, remove the leaves from the water and let them sit in a colander to drain the excess water and completely cool. I normally put around 2 to 3 leaves in at a time as they wouldn't all fit in and cook evenly. Continue this process until all the leaves are done. So while the cabbage leaves cook, roughly chop and place 2 medium-sized carrots, 1 large brown onion and a small red bell pepper in a food processor that has an S blade in it. You don't need to worry about how small you chop the vegetables, as the food processor will do most of the work for you. So now we're just going to pulse these veggies until they're finely chopped. Just remember to open it and scrape down the sides so that you get all the vegetables chopped evenly. Okay, that's it. Place a large skillet on medium-high heat. So if you don't have a food processor, you can chop up the veggies by hand finely. And if you're doing that, you can actually put the oil straight into the pan before you add the veggies. But the reason that I'm putting the veggies in first is because there's moisture in there that's come out whilst I've processed it. So we saute those down to evaporate all of the extra moisture, and then we add in the olive oil. Add in the veggies and saute for a few minutes. In the meantime, mince 4 cloves of garlic and finely chop half a cup of parsley. Once all the moisture has evaporated, add in the 2 tablespoons of olive oil and saute for a further couple of minutes. Now we add in the garlic and parsley, followed by 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, 1 teaspoon of sweet paprika, a 1/3 cup of medium grain white rice that has been washed and drained, half a cup of oats, 1½ teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon dried oregano, 1 teaspoon of dried thyme, and a good amount of cracked pepper. Now we need to wash a can of brown lentils, or use 1 1/3 cup of home cooked lentils, and add that to the skillet and give it a good stir. That smells really good. Some nice herbs and spices in there. Set it aside while we prepare the tomato sauce for the cabbage rolls to cook in. Add a large pot to the stove on medium-high heat, and one that'll fit 8 cabbage rolls. I use my cast iron pot. Finely chop a small brown onion and add in 2 tablespoons of olive oil to the pot. Saute for a few minutes until translucent and fragrant. I absolutely love the smell of onions frying in olive oil. Next up, add in 2 cans of diced tomatoes and stir well. Let it simmer on medium heat for 10 minutes while you prepare your cabbage rolls. Just make sure you stir it occasionally. Take 1 leaf and with a paring knife cut the rib off. Place the leaf on a flat surface with the rib side facing you. Scoop a 1/3 to half a cup of the filling mixture, depending on the size of the cabbage leaf, and place it at the end closest to you with a couple of inches left so you can roll it. Make the filling nice and compact and roll the rib side of the leaf over the filling and slightly tug it towards yourself to make it nice and compact. bring in the sides of the leaf over the middle and then roll it tightly. Think about how you would roll a burrito. It's the same method. Repeat this process for the rest of the cabbage leaves and filling. Don't worry if you have some left over, I'll show you how to use it up later. The tomato sauce should be finished by now. Take half of it out and set it aside. With the remainder of the cabbage head we set aside earlier, cut it in half and then in half again. We'll be using about a quarter of it. Shred it nice and fine. This step is totally optional, but it adds a lovely texture to the sauce. Add it to the pot and spread it out evenly, breaking up the larger pieces. Place the cabbage rolls in the pot nice and snug, pressing down to compact the shredded cabbage. Tuck in 2 dried bay leaves and add the rest of the tomato sauce on top. Spread it out evenly. Pour over stock or use the water you cooked your cabbage leaves in. Give the pot a shake to get the liquid to sink to the bottom of the pot and to top it off just enough to cover the cabbage rolls. If you used water, add some salt here. Cook on low for 1 hour with the lid on and then for another 30 minutes on medium with the lid off. Check on it every now and then to make sure that the liquid hasn't completely evaporated. Remove the bay leaves before serving. Serve these beautiful filling cabbage rolls with mashed potato or some bread. We actually love them just on their own as well. This will serve 4 people with 2 rolls per person. Now the last recipe that I'm going to be making for you today is a vegan cabbage soup. Now this actually came about accidentally because I was making vegan cabbage rolls for the website, testing them over and over again, and I had some extra filling left over because my cabbage leaves were quite small. And then I decided to make a cabbage soup with it. Now this can be adjusted to however you like to have it, so I've actually saved a couple of cabbage rolls from the previous recipe that I showed you, and I had a little bit of leftover filling. So we're just going to make that into a beautiful soup. So I'll show you how to do that now. To get started, I'm taking 2 cabbage rolls and chopping them up roughly. Return them either to the pot that has some leftover cabbage and tomato sauce or a new clean pot. If you're using a clean one, add half a can of tomatoes and about 2 cups of shredded cabbage, and any leftover filling you may have from the cabbage rolls. Add in a can of kidney beans, a teaspoon of dried rosemary and salt to taste. Here you can add whatever you like, but I find that those 2 additions add a lovely balance and extra substance to the soup. If you still have that pot of cabbage water, you can add some of that in, or alternatively add vegetable stock. Just adjust the seasoning accordingly. Cook on low heat with the lid on for 20 minutes and then on medium heat with the lid off for another 10. Give it a stir. This is a great recipe to make when you have a couple of extra cabbage rolls left over with some of that cabbage and tomato sauce on the bottom. Play around with it to your liking. And there you go, quick, tasty and easy soup done in less than 40 minutes. Rich, hearty, nutritious and filling, perfect for those cooler months. I hope that you try these vegan cabbage recipes. I'm sure you'll love the variety and the depths of flavours in each one of them. Now if you do try them, please let me know in the comments below. I've linked the cabbage pasta and the vegan cabbage rolls recipes for you in the description below, and you can also find them at theminimalistvegan.com. Now since I improvised on the cabbage soup, I hope that I've given you a good guide so that you can try and test out whatever you like at home. Now as always, we would love it if you give this video a thumbs up. And until next time, happy cooking. This is one of my childhood favourite dishes that in the Balkans is called baklava. And then you can go and take that away and continue doing your own thing by yourself. Creative and as well making it at home.